Well, developing now, Secretary of State John Kerry has just issued a statement on Syria saying that the Assad regime's use of chemical weapons and the involvement of Hezbollah threatens to put a political settlement out of reach. Now, this comes after the White House's announcement that it will begin providing the rebels with small arms. Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Eliot Engel, ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Welcome to you, sir. So glad to have you, because this is a really important time in this situation. Before we also get to Syria, we want to tell you that Iran has just announced that they have a newly elected moderate cleric as president, that being Hassan Rouhani. Does that change at all the equation between Iran and the United States?
Well, no, because moderate is a matter of the eyes of the beholder, perspective. No one running in the Iranian election is moderate. Iran eliminated all their moderate candidates. They weren't even allowed to stand for office. And so you have a collection of people vying for president who really are all saying the same thing. It's minutia, the difference between them, and they will take a hard line, and that's part of the problem we have in Syria today as well. Iran is there, it's lurking, it's aiding Assad, it's in cahoots with its terrorist proxy Hezbollah, and that is one of the reasons why President Obama is very concerned about what's happening in Syria.
So then, do you agree with Secretary of State Kerry that settlement is out of reach based on the use of chemical weapons and based on Hezbollah's involvement?
Well, originally the thought was there would be a conference and a settlement, and there would be a negotiation for a post-Assad, Assad's the leader of Syria, post-Assad Syria. It's clear now Assad's not leaving. He's being backed by Iran. He's being backed by Russia. He's being backed by the Hezbollah terrorist organization. And so the situation has changed. And so we have to change. Otherwise, we will see a humanitarian crisis of tremendous proportion.
But, sir, hasn't part of the reason for a delay of U.S. involvement been because of holding out hope of some sort of a political negotiation of sorts? And with the United States now saying that they are providing small arms, weapons, and ammunition to Syria, doesn't that then definitively put out a political process of diplomacy? It's off the table?
Well, I think the decision was made, and I think correctly so, that a negotiated settlement at this time is not only off the table, it's not possible because Russia is giving S-300s, which is the anti-aircraft weapons, to Syria, and Hezbollah is now fighting in Syria, on the side of Syria, and that Assad has been strengthened because of this. And so it's a mismatch. The West is sitting on its hands, and the bad guys are getting all the weapons. So I think this is an attempt by the president to say enough is enough. Now let's look at what's happened in Syria. It's a humanitarian crisis. Assad has murdered about 93,000 of his own people. There are 7 million Syrians displaced within Syria, 2 million refugees pouring into Jordan and Lebanon and all over the place. If we just sit by and do nothing, many thousands more will die. We intervened in Libya. This is even more important, in my opinion, more of a strategic interest. And there's one other thing as well. Assad is Iran's proxy right now. And if they are watching very carefully what we are doing. The president has said that he will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. If Iran perceives any weakness on the West in Syria, they're not going to believe anything and will just keep proceeding for nuclear weapons. So this has implications way beyond Syria.
But by becoming involved, it has been suggested that the United States now will, at least in part, own this war. What's your response to that?
I don't think so. The president has been very careful, and he's right to say there will be no boots on the ground. There were no boots on the ground in Libya. There were NATO bombings. That we have air power that could help the rebels ultimately. We have to talk about a no-fly zone. But these are all bad choices. But the choice to do nothing, I think, is the worst possible choice.
It would seem, though, that the American public has little to no appetite for any involvement in Syria. Now, granted, this is small arms and weapons. How effective can that be in helping the rebels?
Well, I don't think you do these things based on polls. I think you do it based on what's in the U.S. strategic interest, and you do it based on what's right. From a humanitarian point of view, it's the right thing to do, and in my opinion, the U.S. strategic interest, it's the right thing to do. Now, I don't think we should get involved in another war, and no one is saying that. You can always say, well, if you get involved, if you aid the rebels, you'll get sucked in. But we don't have to get sucked in. We have the rebels right now that are fighting for a free Syria, for a democratic Syria, and they're mismatched because the opposition, the bad guys, are getting all the weapons. This is an attempt to even the playing field.
Is there a sense, though, sir, of exactly with whom we are dealing when it comes to the rebels? I mean, have their leadership, I guess, paths been established? Do we know who is at the head of each of these factions of the rebels?
Well, we know that the Free Syrian Army is led by Mr. Idris, and we know that they're pro-West and they want
so they're one of the
democracy
good
to
guys?
Syria. Absolutely.
Without question.
Without question. And so I'm suggesting that we give aid to well-vetted rebels. I introduced a bill several months ago in the House of Representatives that would give President Obama the authority to aid the rebels. And you know, Assad's been a bad guy. In 2004, I passed the Syria Accountability Act, which became law, which slaps sanctions on Syria for doing all kinds of horrific things. Here he is, it's a decade later, and he hasn't stopped.
Is there a guarantee that these small weapons will not fall into the hands of al-Qaeda?
There's no guarantee, but I think we're smart about it, and I think we know what to do. Look, again, these are all bad choices. Nothing is a slam dunk, but I think to do nothing is the worst possible choice. If we act now, we have a chance of the good guys winning. And by the way, it's not only the good guys, it's in our strategic interest not to let terrorist Hezbollah, terrorist supporter Iran, and Assad, who's murdered his own people, prevail. If that happens, there's chaos and potential chaos for our ally Jordan. Lebanon is destabilized. We need to move now to make sure that the least worst thing happens.
Representative Eliot Engel, many thanks for your time, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.